Once they stepped into the magical world of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory 1971, their faces became unforgettable. But what happened when the cameras stopped rolling? Some soared, others faded into obscurity, and many have since met tragic fates. Which stars lived long enough to see their legacy endure, and which ones were taken too soon? Gene Wilder, born Jerome Silberman on June 11, 1933, became a cinematic legend when he embodied Willy Wonka in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory 1971. At the age of 38, he stepped into a role that would define his career and cement him as one of Hollywood's most enchanting performers. His performance was deliberately ambiguous at once, whimsical, menacing, and deeply human. That complexity was no accident. Wilder believed the character should keep audiences uncertain whether Wonka was benevolent or dangerous. This daring interpretation made his portrayal timeless. Before Wonka, he had already gained acclaim with Mel Brooks as the producer's 1967, a role that earned him an Academy Award nomination, and afterward he would deliver classics like Blazing Saddles 1974 and Young Frankenstein 1974. Financially, Wilder's career brought him an estimated net worth of around $20 million at its peak. Yet behind the curtain of fame was a life filled with both triumph and heartache. He was married 4 times, but his most public and tragic love story was with comedian Gilda Radner. Their marriage was filled with joy, but Radner's untimely death from ovarian cancer in 1989 left Wilder shattered. He later remarried Karen Boyer, with whom he shared a quieter life. But friends often noted that he never fully recovered from losing Gilda. Wilder never had children of his own, though he was a stepfather and adored family life in his Connecticut estate, a home filled with art and laughter. Wilder's later years were marked by declining health. In 2013, he was diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, a struggle he chose to keep private. His death on August 29, 2016, at age 83, stunned the world, because few knew he had been ill. He passed away in a Stamford, Connecticut home surrounded by family. The man who gave generations joy and magic left a legacy that was brilliant, but touched by sorrow. His life was a bittersweet fairy tale filled with fame, love loss, and an ending that came quietly like the closing of a storybook. Jack Albertson, born June 16, 1907, became the beating heart of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, as Grandpa Joe, the bedridden yet spirited grandfather who encourages Charlie to dream. At the age of 64, Albertson poured warmth and charisma into the role, making him one of the most beloved figures in the film. His performance carried an authenticity born of decades in show business. Albertson's career began in vaudeville and burlesque, and he steadily worked his way into radio, Broadway, film, and television. He won the prestigious Triple Crown of Acting and Academy Award for The Subject Was Roses, 1968 a Tony Award for the same role, and an Emmy for Chico and the Man, 1976. Few actors achieved such a feat, and yet Albertson remained grounded. His net worth was estimated around $1 million at the time of his death, a modest figure by today's standards, but reflective of a steady career in an era before blockbuster salaries. Albertson's personal life was relatively calm compared to many of his peers. Married to Wallace Thompson, he was devoted to his wife and their daughter, Maura. But his story took a tragic turn in 1978 when he was diagnosed with colorectal cancer. True to his work ethic, Albertson kept his illness secret, continuing to act in films and television while undergoing treatment. The cruel irony was that while he played roles that celebrated life and hope, his own body was betraying him. On November 25, 1981, Albertson succumbed to cancer at the age of 74 in Los Angeles. His passing was mourned not just by fans, but by fellow actors who admired his resilience and kindness. His Los Angeles home, where he spent his final days, was a simple place filled with family rather than Hollywood glamour. Albertson's life was not defined by scandal or public failure, but by a relentless commitment to his craft, even in the face of personal suffering. Today, he is remembered as the gentle soul who brought Grandpa Joe to life, embodying hope in both his roles and his own courageous fight against illness. Roy Kinnear, born January 8, 1934, played the wealthy, pompous Mr. Salt, the father of spoiled Veruca in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when he was 37. His role added sharp comedic timing to the story, portraying the absurdity of indulgent parenthood. Known in Britain as one of the most gifted character actors of his generation, Kinnear had built a strong reputation through film's television and stage work. He was a frequent collaborator with director Richard Lester, appearing in Help 1965 with the Beatles. A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum 1966, and later The Three Musketeers 1973, and The Four Musketeers 1974. His career earnings brought him a net worth of about $5 million, a solid fortune for a working character actor of his time. Yet behind the laughter was a man who struggled with typecasting. Kinnear often felt trapped in comic relief roles, yearning for more dramatic recognition. Personally, his life was more steady. He married actress Carmel Cryan, and they had 3 children together, including Rory Kinnear, who would later become a celebrated actor in his own right. However, fate delivered tragedy in 1988 while filming The Return of the Musketeers in Spain. During a horseback riding scene, Kinnear fell and broke his pelvis. Complications from the injury caused a heart attack the next day, leading to his sudden death on September 20th, 1988, at just 54 years old. His passing was a devastating blow to his family and the British film community. His London home, once full of joy and family life, became a symbol of loss. Kinnear's death also cast a shadow over the film, with many calling for stricter safety standards on sets. His life combined laughter and tragedy, a man who gave joy to millions, but whose career was cut short by a cruel accident. Today, his legacy lives on not only in his own work, but also in the career of his son, Rory, a testament to a family touched by both talent and heartbreak. Leonard Stone, born November 3, 1923, became etched in cinema history when he took on the role of Mr. Beauregard, the ambitious, loudmouthed father of Violet in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971. At the age of 47, Stone embodied the pushy, self-promoting parent who bragged relentlessly about his daughter's chewing gum habits, perfectly capturing the satirical spirit of the film. Yet Stone's career stretched far beyond this single role. Trained as a stage actor, he appeared in over 120 television shows and 35 films with credits spanning Perry Mason, The Outer Limits, Hogan's Heroes, and Gunsmoke. He had a knack for playing authoritative or pompous characters, which made him a reliable face on screen, but sometimes limited his career opportunities. Financially, Stone's work provided a steady living, with his net worth later estimated at around $1 million. His personal life was more private. Married to Carol Stone, he raised 4 children. But like many actors of his generation, he never quite found superstardom. This frustration became a quiet biographical shadow as he lived in the shadow of bigger Hollywood names while never being out of work. In later life, Stone faced health challenges. On November 7, 2011, just one day before his 88th birthday, he died of cancer in Encinitas, California. His passing was quiet, away from the limelight, leaving behind a family who remembered him not as a character actor, but as a devoted husband and father. His story is one of perseverance, steady work, quiet personal happiness, and a legacy tied forever to a magical chocolate factory. Denise Nickerson, born April 1, 1957, became world famous at just 13 years old when she played Violet Beauregard, the gum-chewing competitive child who swells into a giant blueberry. Her role in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory was both iconic and cursed. Though it made her unforgettable, it also typecast her in a way that limited her future opportunities. By the time the film was released, she was already a seasoned child actress with appearances in the Gothic soap, Dark Shadows, and other television series. But fame came too soon, and by her early 20s, she left Hollywood altogether disillusioned by the industry. Nickerson pursued other careers, including working as a receptionist and in medical offices. Financially, her net worth was modest, estimated around $1 to $2 million at her peak, though she struggled with stability in her later years. Her personal life was marked by heartbreak. She married twice, had 1 son, but also endured tragedy when her second husband died. Suddenly, in 2012, her own health declined rapidly in her final years. She suffered a massive stroke in 2018, followed by pneumonia and seizures. On July 10, 2019, Nickerson passed away in Colorado at the age of 62 after her family made the difficult decision to remove her from life support. Her son Joshua was by her side. Unlike Violet, who was transformed back to normal, at the end of Wonka's story, Denise's life was never quite restored after the hardships she endured. She left behind no mansions or Hollywood wealth, just memories of a girl who once lit up the screen with sass and energy, only to have her adulthood marked by hardship and loss. Nora Denny, also credited as Dodo Denny, was born September 3, 1927, in Kansas City, Missouri. At 44 years old, she stepped into the role of Mrs. TV, the quirky, somewhat oblivious mother of young television addict Mike TV in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Her character was humorous yet grounded, reflecting the satire of parents who allowed modern technology to raise their children. Though her role was small, it added charm and relatability to the film's ensemble. Denny's career was broad, spanning both comedic and dramatic roles. She appeared in Splash 1984, Melvin and Howard 1980, and guest starred on numerous television shows including Bewitched and Get Smart. She carved out a career as a dependable character actress, never achieving stardom but always employed. Her net worth was estimated at around $500,000 to $1 million, sufficient for a steady Hollywood lifestyle but modest compared to the stars she worked alongside. Her private life was marked by both joy and sorrow. Married twice, she raised 2 sons but also endured the loneliness of divorce. In her later years, she stepped away from Hollywood, living more quietly in California. Sadly, on November 20, 2005, Denny died of complications from pneumonia at the age of 78. Unlike some of her co-stars, her passing went largely unnoticed by the public, though those who knew her remembered her as a bright, warm spirit with an eccentric sense of humor. Her life was not without struggle balancing work, family, and the pressures of Hollywood, but she left behind a legacy as one of the colorful parents who helped make Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory so enduring. Ursula Wright, born March 5, 1914 in Wuppertal, Germany, brought a distinctly European flavor to Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory when she played Mrs. Gloop, the doting and overindulgent mother of Augustus. At 57 years old during the filming, she embodied the stereotype of the German matron with both humor and warmth, fussing endlessly over her greedy son as he met his chocolate-filled fate. Though her role was small, Wright's performance stood out for its comedic timing and exaggerated motherly devotion. Her acting career stretched primarily across German cinema and television, where she appeared in a range of productions often cast in character roles that highlighted her distinct look and mannerisms. Despite her visibility in Europe, she never achieved international fame beyond Willy Wonka. Financially, her net worth was modest, likely in the range of $500,000 by the time of her later years, sustained through steady acting work, but never reaching Hollywood heights. Wright was intensely private about her personal life. She never married, and no public records suggest she had children. This solitude gave her later life a quiet, even lonely tone, far removed from the colorful chaos of the Chocolate Factory. In 1998, she passed away in Germany at the age of 84. The exact cause of her death was never widely publicized, but her passing marked the end of a career defined by steady work rather than stardom. Today, she is remembered most vividly as the exasperated but loving Mrs. Gloop, forever trying to pull her son out of trouble in Willy Wonka's factory. Diana Sewell, born June 19, 1930, brought quiet strength and tenderness to the role of Mrs. Bucket Charlie's hardworking mother. At 41 years old during filming, Sewell's performance was understated but deeply moving, embodying the resilience of poverty-stricken mothers everywhere. Her rendition of the lullaby Cheer Up Charlie became one of the emotional anchors of the film, even though it was one of her few on-screen roles. Unlike many of her co-stars, Sewell's career did not flourish in Hollywood after Willy Wonka. In fact, she virtually disappeared from the screen for decades. Instead, she turned her attention to stage work and community theater, finding her artistic fulfillment in smaller, more intimate venues. Financially, her career meant she never became wealthy. Her net worth was modest, perhaps around $1 million, at most accumulated through teaching. Acting and later voice work, she notably voiced characters in Fallout 3. Her personal life was stable and devoted. Married to Robert Soule, she lived a quiet life in Washington, D.C., where she dedicated herself to community outreach and literacy programs. She and her husband had children, and family remained her anchor throughout her life. Yet her later years were tinged with sadness. Despite her contribution to a beloved classic, she was rarely recognized by the public, and she quietly lived outside the Hollywood spotlight. On October 19, 2018, she passed away in Washington at the age of 88. Her death was from natural causes, and she was remembered by those close to her as a gentle soul who cared more about family and service than fame. David Batley, born November 5, 1935 in Birmingham, England, was 35 years old when he stepped into the role of Mr. Turkentine, Charlie Bucket's eccentric and slightly absent-minded schoolteacher. His dry delivery and understated humor gave the classroom scenes a peculiar charm, making Turkentine a fan favorite among audiences. Known for his comedic subtlety, Batley was a quintessential British character actor. His career included appearances in television series like The Good Life and Up Pompeii, as well as films such as The Return of the Pink Panther, 1975, and Cole the Conqueror, 1997. He was admired for his deadpan style, which translated across stage television and film. Yet, while respected, Batley never reached international stardom, remaining a dependable but often overlooked performer. Financially, his net worth was estimated at around $2 million, sustained through decades of consistent acting. Batley's personal life was shaped by health struggles. Born with a congenital heart condition, he lived under the shadow of medical difficulties that limited his physical stamina. Despite this, he worked steadily and built a reputation as a professional who could bring humor to even the smallest role. His marriage produced children, and he lived much of his later life in London, balancing family with his career. Sadly, on January 20, 2003, Batley died of a heart attack at the age of 67. His passing was mourned by colleagues who knew him as a generous and witty performer. His home in London was modest, reflecting his character actor's lifestyle rather than a superstar's. Batley's legacy remains in the dry, unforgettable humor he brought to Mr. Turkentine, a teacher both baffling and endearing, forever etched into the story of Willy Wonka's magical world. Günther Meisner, born April 18, 1942 in Germany, left an indelible mark on audiences as the menacing Mr. Slugworth in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971. At only 29 years old, he played the shadowy figure who tempted the children with promises of wealth if they betrayed Wonka. His sharp features and intense presence gave the film one of its creepiest undertones. Outside the factory gates, Meisner had a prolific career working in both German and international cinema. He appeared in films like The Boys from Brazil, 1978, The Winds of War, 1983, and even Schindler's List, 1993. Financially, his acting career provided him with stability, his net worth later estimated at around $132 million. Yet his personal life was one of solitude, never marrying. Rarely courting the press, he lived as a quiet man dedicated to his craft. Colleagues described him as intense but professional, a man who poured himself into his roles. Tragedy came abruptly on December 5, 1994. Meisner died of heart failure while filming in Germany, just 52 years old. His death shocked his peers, cutting short a career still vibrant with potential. He left behind no family legacy, no sprawling estates, only the eerie memory of a man who once whispered temptations into children's ears, embodying the darker side of Willy Wonka's magical tale. Peter Ostrom, born November 1, 1957, was just 12 years old when he played Charlie Bucket, the pure-hearted boy who wins Wonka's Chocolate Factory. His performance in 1971 captured innocence and hope, but it would also be his one and only film role. Ostrom walked away from Hollywood almost immediately after filming, despite being offered a multi-picture deal. By 14, he had decided against acting and instead pursued a life far away from the cameras. His adult career could not have been more different. Ostrom studied veterinary medicine and became a large animal veterinarian in upstate New York, caring for horses and cows. Financially, his path brought him stability with an estimated net worth today of about $500,000, $1 million, far less than if he had pursued Hollywood stardom, but earned through steady, grounded work. His personal life was remarkably stable. He married Loretta Lepkowski, had 2 children, and lived quietly in Lowville, New York. There were no public scandals, no broken marriages, no Hollywood tragedies in Ostrom's story. Yet there was always the shadow of Willy Wonka. Fans tracked him down and he reluctantly became known as the most famous one-time actor in the world. Today in his mid-60s, Ostrom looks back on the film fondly, but admits he wanted a normal life away from fame. His legacy is unique, a childhood role that became legendary, followed by a life of anonymity and peace. Julie Dawn. Cole, born October 26, 1957, was just 12 years old when she became the unforgettable Veruca Salt, the bratty, demanding rich girl who insisted she wanted a golden goose now. Her performance was so convincing that she became a symbol of spoiled children, everywhere a role that followed her long after the film's release. After Willy Wonka, Cole pursued acting, working in British television in shows like Angels and Poldark. Her career brought her modest financial success with an estimated net worth around $1 to $2 million. But her personal life was far more complicated. She married actor Nick Wilton, with whom she had 2 children, but their marriage ended in divorce, leaving Cole to navigate single motherhood. Later, she shifted careers working as a psychotherapist and even writing a memoir about her experiences as Veruca Salt, candidly discussing the pressures of child stardom. Her life was not without biographical shadows. She admitted struggling with identity after being typecast as the brat and working through difficult personal losses, including the death of her mother. Today, in her mid-60s, Cole lives in England, still connected to Willy Wonka through fan events and interviews. Her story is one of transformation from bratty Veruca to resilient woman shaped by fame, heartbreak, and reinvention. Paris Themin, born June 25, 1959, was 11 years old when he played Mike Teavee. The Western-loving television-addicted boy shrunk down by Wonka's invention. Like Peter Ostrom, Themin did not pursue a traditional Hollywood career, though he dabbled in acting and commercials in his youth. As an adult, he reinvented himself many times: real estate broker, travel entrepreneur, and even financial consultant. His net worth today is estimated at around $2 million accumulated, not through acting but through business ventures and investments. Personally, Themin has kept a relatively low profile, though he has been married and has children. Unlike some of his co-stars, he avoided major scandal, though his post-Wonka career was marked by a kind of restlessness, moving from job to job, never fully settling in one field. Themin remained tied to Willy Wonka through nostalgia, appearing at fan conventions and even making a surprise appearance on Jeopardy in 2018, where he introduced himself as an entrepreneur, but was instantly recognized by fans as the boy once shrunk on television. Now in his 60s, he lives quietly in Los Angeles with property investments and a stable family life. His story reflects the strange legacy of the Willy Wonka children's early fame, followed by ordinary adulthood always haunted by the memory of the chocolate factory. Michael Bollner, born September 14, 1958 in Munich, West Germany, was only 12 years old when he became the unforgettable Augustus Gloop in Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory, 1971. His role as the greedy, chocolate-loving boy who tumbles into Wonka's river was both hilarious and iconic. Yet, unlike many of his young co-stars, Bollner never returned to acting after the film. His parents discouraged him from pursuing a career in Hollywood, insisting he focus on his education. Thus, his acting career ended as soon as it began leaving Augustus Gloop as his sole cinematic legacy. Instead of chasing fame, Bollner chose a different path. He became a tax accountant in Munich, a stable career far removed from the glitz of Hollywood. Financially, his professional life gave him comfort with an estimated net worth of around $1 to $2 million, not from acting royalties, but from years of steady work in finance. His personal life has been marked by privacy. He never sought the spotlight, though he occasionally appeared at fan conventions celebrating the film. Unlike some of his fellow cast members, there are no public scandals or dramatic heartbreaks tied to his name. Bollner never married, and no record suggests that he has children. Instead, he lived a quiet bachelor's life in Germany, working, traveling occasionally, and watching from afar as Willy Wonka grew into a cultural phenomenon. Fans who meet him at conventions describe him as kind and humble, though amused that people still associate him with a role he played as a child more than 50 years ago. Now, in his mid-60s, Bollner still resides in Germany, where he owns modest property and enjoys a private lifestyle. His story is unusual among the Willy Wonka children. There were no scandals, no tragic falls, no Hollywood drama. Just one unforgettable role followed by a quiet, grounded life. While Augustus Gloop will forever live in the Chocolate River, Michael Bollner chose to live far from the glare of the cameras, turning his back on fame, but carrying with him the odd legacy of being the boy who once represented pure greed on screen. Which character from Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory 1971 holds a special place in your heart? How does it make you feel knowing that some of the beloved cast members are no longer with us? We'd love to hear your thoughts. Feel free to share them in the comments below. If you've been enjoying this content, please like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. Thank you for watching.